Alright, we got us a second channel video. Tell just dropped a couple hours ago. This is the disturbing world of unknown cults. Let's get it.
Thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. More on them later. Hello everyone, my name is Tuv, and today we're going to be talking about the disturbing world of unknown cults. In this video, we're going to try our best to talk about cults that aren't really talked about, but it's kind of hard to find them because, one, that's just another rabbit hole of research, and two, even the unknown ones at some point got talked about either on a YouTube video or on a Netflix documentary, so I tried my best on this list. And also, in case you guys think I did not upload last week, I actually did, or maybe a week and a half ago now that this video is whenever you're watching this. It was just a messy release of my creepypastas based on true stories video. It got age restricted, and then I re-uploaded it, and then that one got taken down for violating community guidelines, and then YouTube brought it back. So I currently have 2 copies of the same video on my channel, and then YouTube removed the age restriction from the original video, and it's just such a messy release. So I do want to apologize for that.
YouTube is, oh my god, all over the fucking place, bro. Chat, do y'all know they denied my fucking appeal for the child policy shit, bro? And I haven't heard anything back from them Twitter niggas, bro. Nothing. It's been fucking radio silence. They asked me for the link and I haven't heard shit. They didn't even say they was gonna look into it, bro. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they pissed me off, bro.
Like,
child policy.
What type of YouTuber?
They said there was like I in the last Reddit that I reacted to with Mikey and Aaron, they said that fucking there was a child safety policy that I violated and they took my fucking video down. Even though the person, I have picture proof, said they went over the video and don't see where the policy could have triggered, they still denied my shit. And I haven't heard anything back from Twitter.
Has a messy release for a video. I guess I do. Sorry about that. But yeah, this video gets very dark, as do all of my videos. But just giving you guys a fair warning, and I'd be lying if I told you I didn't just say that for the YouTube reviewer that's watching this video as well. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. YouTube reviewer. I promise you, this is censored to the perfect degree where my audience doesn't complain and you guys don't complain either. And now a quick word from today's sponsor. So I recently found out I was being charged for Adobe Creative Cloud for 21 bucks a month, along with some other services I had completely forgotten I was subscribed to. Now, what if I told you there was a way for all your subscriptions to be laid out neatly in front of you?
W, get your money, bruh. Get your money, bruh. I'm gonna skip that, though.
Raelism. Did aliens create humans? Well, most of us would probably think a little bit before answering that. But for members in the Raelian Church, the answer is an instant yes. In fact, this is one of their core beliefs, also known as Raelianism. I hope I pronounced that right, or else this is gonna be episode 8000 of Tuv mispronouncing something. Anyway,
Simba sponsor when? I want one, but they don't fuck with me like that enough, I guess. They don't fuck with me enough, I guess. I don't know. It's fine.
Believes that Elohim, a species from out there in outer space, used their advanced technology to create humanity some 25,000 years ago. So if that's the case, then where does the God that so many cultures believe in come from? Well, this UFO movement believes that Elohim, our creators, have historically been mistaken for gods. And just to clarify here, Raelism is an atheistic movement, which means they do not believe in deities or their existence at all. Actually, most of this cult's belief is simply centered on the Elohim species, and them coming back and some sexual liberty. Their leader, Claude Vorel-Han, a former journalist and racer who began the whole thing back in the 1970s in France, believes that the Elohim created 40 human hybrids that have been prophets that tell the world what the true origin of human beings is. And can you guess who the 40th prophet is? None other than Claude himself. Others on the list include Jesus, Elijah, Muhammad, and Buddha. Claude, who published these claims in a 1974 book titled Le Livre qui dit la vérité, also known as the book that tells the truth, also maintains that since the Hiroshima bomb of 1945, humans entered the age of apocalypse, which then triggered the need to use scientific and technological developments for peaceful purposes. Apparently only when this is accomplished will the Elohim return to share their own tech with humanity and hence establish a utopia. This return, as Claude was told by the Elohim, might happen in 2035. Pretty fascinating so far, but
okay.
there's a lot more. For instance, they also believe in human cloning, something that creates the hopes of immortality for them. They made these baby cloning remarks back in 2001, where they claimed the ability to do so at a fee of $200,000 per baby. Once the media picked up on the story and critics began hitting back, the FDA quickly shut them down after. And then, rather oddly, sexual experimentation, as I've hinted.
Wait, sexual experiment? Hold on. What did I miss? Hold on. Sexual experimentation? What are you talking about? Hold on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Hold on 1 second. Say that again.
After. And then, rather oddly, sexual experimentation, as I've hinted, seems to be a big part of their movement. They encourage free love and tend to view sex as a natural, vital, and healthy aspect of life. At first glance, this may seem a little bit harmless. It's just some weird cult having some orgies probably. Okay. Until you realize that Claude has been described as a sex maniac who abuses his power to have sex with the women that follow him. It's also been said that what they call sensual meditation, an example of which happened in 1974, involves members stripping naked and pleasuring themselves openly. And during it, the men persuade the women to have sex with them in order to become more fulfilled. This has also been viewed as a breeding ground for SA of minors, as there were accusations where 2 members violated an underage person, with allegedly her mother allowing it all to happen, which is just...
That's why these cults are fucking insane, bro. They let these people do whatever they want to their fucking kids because cult leaders... Get the fuck out of here. What are we talking about, bro? Your child?
An underage person, with allegedly her mother allowing it all to happen, which is just so disgusting. I actually don't think I can overstate just how much sexual stuff goes on in this cult. It's probably just easier to say that there seems to be almost no rules when it comes to sex. At least, more rules for the women and less for men. That's what I'm getting from this. Men, even the married ones, are told their women cannot be monogamous. Sexual release is seen as welcoming the Elohim.
If I'm married to a woman, you're telling me she can't be monogamous to me. Okay.
Open air sex is encouraged, and the list goes on. Then, of course, Claude, as a representative of the Elohim, gets privileges of his own, which includes the Order of the Angels. And it's just a bunch of young women that have been chosen to welcome the Elohim. Look, man, as much as I could get into detail, I am not going to. YouTube kind of scared me with the age restriction stuff, but basically, it's just manipulation and abuse of young adults, and mainly women.
Wow.
But not to say there's not men, it's both. But yeah, it's pretty disgusting and pretty fucking weird. If you do want to learn more about this specific topic, there is a Netflix documentary. It goes way deeper than what I just covered.
Might watch that.
And it even follows up with some court cases. Let's head on to the next cult. Takashi Nakagawa's Happy Science. Cults in general will have a lot of things going on, but Happy Science is one of those that leave you fascinated by the amount of weirdness that cult leaders can dish out only in the name of belief. We're talking about rivalry with other cults, fake UFOs.
Wait, there's cult rivalries? What the fuck? Since when did they be beefing? What the fuck? And what did I miss?
Out only in the name of belief. We're talking about rivalry with other cults, fake UFOs, channeling spirits of the people, dead or alive, reincarnation, fake COVID cures, and there's honestly a lot more that goes on. Believe me, this video could be 12 hours long, but we're just gonna take a look at the messier parts. So first, the basics. Happy Science was started by Takashi Nakagawa, a Japanese man who, while pursuing quite a successful Wall Street trading career in the early 80s, got the conviction that he needed to take on the responsibility of saving the world from ruin. His version of events was that he was in contact with, quote, wise men from the past, like Buddha and Jesus, who told him he was chosen to spiritually redeem this wretched world. Armed with that conviction, he went back to Japan, abandoning his trader career, changed his name to Ryuho Okawa, and began self-publishing spiritual books with titles like The Terrifying Revelations of Nostradamus and The Great Warnings of Allah. These books became instant hits, and followers began streaming in. Initially, he just claimed to be able to channel spirits from the past, like being a reincarnation of Buddha, but then his claims got larger and crazier by the day, to a point where he settled on being a supreme deity, a rebirth El Cantare, a god from Venus. Now, of course, with increased followers, filled stadiums... I know you
fucking lying. This many? Oh my god, bro. People want to believe in something so bad sometimes. Holy, there should never be this many niggas blindly following over 2 books. Oh my god.
where he'd do stuff like hop out of a pretend UFO and lots of publications. According to the website, that's 3,150 books published. Money began flowing in, and so did the prestige. In fact, the organization grew from a relatively small group, just Okawa and a staff of 4 in Suginami, Tokyo, to a worldwide movement with a claimed 11 million followers and thousands of missionaries.
11? Yo, you can't make this shit up, man. You can't make this shit up, man. I swear to God. Can't make it up, bro. Holy.
In over 165 countries. The revenue estimates were as much as $45 million a year. I mean, they did well enough to put their headquarters right here in the US, Tribeca, New York. Now, away from the money, while Happy Science began with claims of being a study group on human happiness, its later years have been nothing close to that. For instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, they were selling coronavirus-themed CDs and DVDs of lectures by Mr.
Oh, so this is a current cult. This is a current cult. Holy. Make a cult, gang. Simba the cult. Okay. COVID CDs is crazy.
Study group on human happiness. Its later years have been nothing close to that. For instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, they were selling coronavirus-themed CDs and DVDs of lectures by Mr. Okawa, claiming that his voice alone held immune-boosting power. And
Okay. All right.
And as if to double down, in Japan, they were selling virus-related blessings for anywhere from $100 to more than $400. Also, sometime in 2020, Okawa decided to make a film, an in-house production written by Sayaka Okawa, his daughter, and focusing on none other than Okawa himself. Titled Immortal Hero, it was a work of fiction based on true events of Okawa's journey to being a spiritual leader. Reviews, though, said it was laughably bad. And quick plot summary, the character who plays him in the film gets a fatal heart condition that leaves him hospitalized, but then refuses treatment against the advice of doctors, and reverses the condition through, quote, the power of his mind.
Of course.
Yes, it's a weird plot, but it's seemingly normal for the stuff he was already writing about. But what is a little bit creepy is that he actually died due to cardiac arrest. That was in March of last year in a hospital in Tokyo, and he was 66. His death, as
if that ain't the motherfucking kettle, nigga said, oh yeah, in my movie, I got healing powers. I got a heart condition, but I heal myself through prayer, but proceeds to die due to cardiac arrest. You can't make this shit up.
probably would any other key figures, brought up stories from his past, some of which, as I mentioned in the beginning, are very fascinating. He, for instance, denounced his first family around 2011, calling them demonic. This was after his wife left.
Denounced his family. I guarantee you he only did that to get a new bit.
The group and threw shade at him, revealing his true followership was probably just 30,000 and not in the claimed millions. 30,000, huh? Bro has the same amount of followers as I have monthly listeners on Spotify. It was also after his son and critic, Hiroshi Okawa, who was supposed to be a successor at one point, revealed that Okawa, quote, relentlessly lied to his followers. Interesting also is that a few years earlier in 2008, he had also tried his hand at Japanese politics, starting his own party, Happiness Realization Party, but with very little success. And equally as fascinating was his rivalry with Shoko Asahara, the leader of the Aum Shinrikyo cult. The rivalry, in which Asahara mocked Okawa's superficial knowledge of Buddhism, culminated in an assassination attempt on Okawa in 1995 by Shinrikyo. Yeah, we're actually going to talk about that later in this video, so really cool that this had a connection. And although it's not very clear on who succeeded Okawa, like if there was like a junior Okawa or something, someone that took over, it's not really known, but Happy Science is very much active and very heavy on selling books. I mean, they got 3,150 books. I wouldn't doubt they're making some decent money. If there's even one loyal follower that's like, oh, I gotta collect all of them like a Diary of a Wimpy Kid collection, you know? They're probably making decent money. But yeah, that's really it for Happy Science. Let's move on to the next one. Bradley Cadenhead 764. Now we've covered a lot of dark.
The fact that there's so many cults is actually crazy. It's just like, how the fuck do you get sucked into a cult like that, bro? You really must need something to believe in. You get the niggas when they're vulnerable as hell, because I just can't, bro. Like, the fuck I look like praising you, bro? If you ever feel like you are praising me, like, on some, like, cult level, please stop. The fuck I look like praising a regular human being? What?
Dark topics, especially when it comes to the internet on this channel.
That's why when niggas be like, oh, some of these celebrities have a cult following, it's fucking crazy. It's because, like, you're praising them like they're not a regular human being with just some extra cash.
And this is one of them. 764, a confirmed satanic cult, is one such wave. Suspected to consist of hundreds of members, boys to even men in their mid-40s, 764 is basically an online extortion ring deliberately going after minors, forcing them to record or live stream very inappropriate things and dealing those clips on the dark web. Based on what the authorities have said and some court records of cases against some of the members, it's confirmed that the group mainly targets people of color, people part of the LGBT, and people dealing with mental illnesses like depression. Now, before we get into where they came from and why they do it, first we should take a look into how. And here the consensus is that they use well-known and seemingly harmless social platforms to lure these minors. For instance, they set bait in highly popular gaming chats like Roblox and Minecraft, or on social media platforms like Discord, Twitch, and interestingly enough, apparently playlists on SoundCloud. They use threats, blackmail, and manipulation to get clips of these minors doing very inappropriate acts, which they then share with their peers on Telegram, which happens to also be their base of operation. Notably, these groups have as many as 5,000 active members at a time, and sadly, it doesn't stop there because once clips are shared on Telegram, other members pick them up and continue to terrorize these innocent kids for more control, and also, as I mentioned, trade them on the dark web. They do all this apparently with the end goal being to gain notoriety and rise in status within their group. That sort of answers the why question, to which then leaves us with who. Who are these guys and where did they come from? Well, they are apparently an offshoot of Order of Nine Angels, aka O9A, one of the vilest perpetrators of terrorist ideology around, guided by their affinity for violence and known for their worship of Hitler, Satanism, and pieces of the Wiccan religion. Wiccans are known for their witchcraft practices, spells, rituals, and magical traditions. Surprisingly, part of this information, that 76
is this nigga smoking crack? Gun-toting Queen Satanist named Angel faces child P charges. What the fuck is wrong with niggas, actually? Holy fuck.
64 was affiliated with O9A came to light after one of the members, 23-year-old Angel Almeida, was arrested for gun possession in Queens, New York. The FBI was tipped regarding Almeida's social media, where he had been sharing images of violence against animals and kids. In the raid on his apartment, they found a 9mm handgun, ammo, and books about O9A. However, an item that stood out about the raid was a, quote, blood covenant, something common with O9A members. In this case, it was a blood smear drawing, a hooded figure.
What the fuck? You put your blood on it? What the fuck is wrong? What the fuck?
Covenant, something common with O9A
members. That's blood, chat.
In this case, it was a blood smear drawing, a hooded figure with glowing red eyes. At the bottom, the drawing was signed, a covenant signed in blood. May the devil walk with you always. Satanae Manibus, a common O9A oath. The last phrase, just so you know, means by Satan's hand. It's Latin. Now, I should emphasize that 764's activities have been extremely devastating, affecting thousands of people, including hundreds of minors, to the point where the FBI issued a public service announcement against them. That announcement, which identifies some threats issued to victims by 764, as including swatting and doxing, was issued on September 12th, 2023, and happens to be the first time that 764 has ever been formally mentioned by any US law enforcement agency. And again, just to emphasize the scale of their operation, in 2023 alone, Discord apparently blocked 130 groups and 34,000 accounts associated with them. Now,
34,000 accounts associated with the groups. Holy fuck.
Now, that FBI PSA was accompanied by several arrests of members, including Angel Almeida, Bradley Cadenhead, Chandler Pong, Kalana Limkin, and a minor in Romania. And rather shockingly, the origins of 764 also got traced to one of these members, 16-year-old Bradley Cadenhead from Stephenville, Dallas, Texas. 764 is actually the zip code for Stephenville. What's unnerving about all this, though, is that as of the publication of an extensive investigative report on the group in 2024, it was noted that they have grown in numbers since 2021, and that social network moderators are struggling to keep them at bay.
Wow. That is actually insane. A sick and fucking twisted 16-year-old, you're following his ways. Holy fuck.
Tama Okada's Mahikari. If you search mahikari on Google, you are likely to end up on the Sukyo mahikari website, where the About section talks of light energy that purifies the spiritual part of people, and also about organic gardening as a spiritual practice. Generally, reading through the website, this self-described nonprofit spiritual and community service organization looks and feels very appealing and forward-thinking. That's especially on matters of environmental conversation. I mean, they did get a Sukyo Mahikari Day, which would be September 27th in Honolulu, for a 10-year streak of beach and park cleanup. They also got accolades from an LA mayor, James Hahn, in 2004 for helping create a peaceful and harmonious society. However, underneath all of this, there are layers of deception, shaming, and a host of other dangerous practices that are hallmarks of cultic organizations. And just so you know, this is not my assessment. Several ex-members have described their time being there as being in a cult. One member, let's call her Lopez, for example, talked of how she joined the cult from a simple interaction with a work colleague. We can call him Fred, where Fred healed her headache through spiritual energy. She soon got introduced to this energy, true divine light, and a lot of other religious practices, including the Kenshu, a spiritual—
You said, why is this stuff online? You gotta think, like, genuinely, like, think, what isn't online? Everything is online.
initiation ceremony where one is finally allowed to carry and reciprocate the light, signified by wearing the omitama, a holy pendant. Although ascending through ranks and making inroads in this newfound organization, she later realized that behind the curtains, the teachings were manipulative and the whole experience was isolating. One example was being taught that the pendant, omitama, was more precious than one's own life. The fact that this was taught to teens was even more problematic. Kotama Okada, the leader, who described himself as the second messiah, also had part of his teachings affecting followers in devastating ways. Lopez says she saw her followers abandoning medicine, delaying hospital visits, and suffering severe symptoms that even led to death. The staff were also not spared, as some of the trainees and priests, completely with no possessions and at the mercy of the mahikari centers, were severely sleep deprived, spending hours on end giving light to people. Apparently, the more elevated you were in the organization, the less sleep you needed. What I find more startling about this group is that its origin, story, and progression are much like how Happy Science began. First, it's just so similar that Kotama Okada took on his divine responsibility after an encounter with a white-haired elderly man in an astral world during a fever dream. This encounter, termed Kamigakari, is what allowed him to go on and start, quote, Sunlight Children Friends Association. That's what the institution was called back then in 1959. It also allowed him to change his name to Kotama, aka Jewel of Light, and cleanse the world of sin. And again, just like Happy Science, he expanded to the US and other parts of the world, with follower counts in 1970 being quoted as anywhere between 300,000 to 400,000 members. Now, while there are a number of smaller controversies around this cult, one particular one that unsettled things a bit was the debunking of Kotama's claim of Japan being the birthplace of everything. It was found that the scientific proof behind this was simply faked findings after a Japanese archaeologist planted fake pottery. This actually turns out to be one of the reasons Lopez, the ex-member, began questioning a lot of the other things within the organization and eventually leaving. Then, even more bizarre, is the link between mahikari and, again, the troubled Aum Shinrikyo cult, responsible for a gas attack on the Tokyo subway. It's alleged that Shimada Yasuko, a Japanese-born Australian citizen who helped establish Sukyo Mahikari in Australia, also helped them purchase a 500,000-acre farm in that same location, you know, being Australia, where not only did they do some sort of scientific experiments, but also caused a mysterious seismic activity. I also have to add that the group had been in trouble before when it donated over $110,000 to start a Japanese cultural center at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Some call Mahikari anti-Semitic and fascist, noting that its ideology justified the Holocaust as a punishment inflicted on the Jews for failing to save King Solomon's temple. Pretty unsettling stuff overall. Julius Schacknow's
This shit is crazy.
In the early 1970s, a charismatic Brooklyn-born man, Julius Schacknow, began a movement that, while having humble beginnings in New Jersey, grew to become a thriving apocalyptic cult in Connecticut that can only be summed up as fascinating. Described as having a beard, long hair, and green eyes, this man, who also had a liking for white robes, had somehow convinced his followers, as many as 300 at the cult's peak, that he was a reincarnated Jesus Christ. He had also declared himself as an oracle of God, with a mission to save mankind from the evil on earth. According to him, this meant that he could judge the sinners and also heal people of addictions and illnesses. But just like you've seen with the last cult, there is a stomach-turning catch. He declared that salvation was only obtainable through having sex with him, and he made it very clear.
Of fucking course.
loophole that allowed him to do that. You see, having declared himself as a reincarnation of Christ, according to him, it meant he didn't know about sin. So then how do you get to know about sins? Easy, by taking part in them. In fact, that's why he also called himself the sinful Messiah and called the sex God's work. Using this perspective, Schacknow justified a lot of abuse on the cult's members. There were allegations that even beyond his members, he sexually assaulted his own family. He was
his own family? Oh, yeah, nah. Get that nigga to pack him up. Get him the fuck up.
Father of 5 and a husband to 7. His stepdaughter accused him of SA, stating that he preyed on her when she was only 11 and didn't stop until she turned 18. Now, pretty sickening behavior, but beyond the polygamy and sexual perversion, Schacknow had even more stuff going on. For instance, he sold his followers a mission that he called the Work, basically a holy mission that needed to be advanced before the apocalypse, and they did so quite successfully. They built and expanded real estate and construction businesses to a peak of around $100 million in yearly sales.
Wow.
Yes, this somehow unknown cult ventured into real estate and was successful. The operation of the businesses, I guess because Schacknow was busy with the other stuff, had been under his chief apostle, Paul Sweetman, and his wife, Joanne Sweetman, aka the Holy Spirit. Schacknow only encouraged the members during their 6-hour Sunday services. He encouraged them to give their utmost best to the business, while the Sweetmans did the rest. And the rest here includes J.Ann North, also known as Century 21. There are 5 franchise real estate company headquarters which did major works around town. Weirdly, by the end of the 80s, these businesses collapsed, something which then began a series of misfortunes, including scores of members deserting the cult. One key misfortune, though, is the murder of the chief apostle, Paul Sweetman. As I've already said, Paul was a key figure in running the cult's businesses, given he'd been sued in 2000 for fraudulently taking a $3.2 million loan from a Hamden bank. However, when the cult's business collapsed, and after Julius died in 96, there was a tussle as to who should take over and control things. This tussle lasted for years, and in 2004,
could you imagine buying property owned by a fucking cult? Hey, bro, that shit would be insane.
To the death of Paul. Joanne, his wife, and also Julius's ex-wife, had reported him missing on July 24th, 2004, and nobody seemed to be able to tell where he'd gone. It wasn't until 2014 that police found one of his legs buried at a golf course. A lengthy investigation then ensued and led Rudy Hannon, age 72, and Sorik Minery, age 42, former members of the cult, being charged. They had killed Paul by stripping him naked and leaving him in a freezer, believing he was hurting Joanne and that God would want them to do so. They then cut him up and buried his body in different locations. Hannon, who also happened to be Julius's real brother, had apparently spent months convincing Minery that the death needed to happen. A surprising detail is that although they did it together, Hannon, years after the killing, would blackmail Minery into sending him money, telling him it was either that or he would snitch on what they did. Oh, and this whole murder plot, as it was later discovered in court, was orchestrated, or rather set in motion, by Joanne Sweetman over a battle over profits. Joanne died in 2011 though, before most of these things came to light. Hannon died in 2022, aged 77, after contracting COVID-19. Minery, 47 now, got 20 years in prison. And as I already mentioned, Julius himself died years earlier in July 96. His cause of death was never revealed, with the only available detail being that he died in his sleep on a Sunday at the home of one of his unofficial wives.
Wow.
Daniel Perez's Angel's Landing. In the slim chance that you've heard of Angel's Landing, you'd be likely to have heard of it in 2015, mainly because that's when its leader was prosecuted and it got featured in an episode of Dateline titled Angels and Demons. Suspected to have begun back in the early 2000s, this cult was not only set up to exploit members, but also to do so in a rather disgusting way. But first, who began it all? Well, it was the work of Daniel Perez, also known as Lou Castro, a man born in 1959 in Aransas Pass, Texas. Somehow, Perez created a traveling...
It's all these 50 niggas. These niggas born in the 50s. Bro, I don't think, cults really can't get crazy today. But back in the day, holy, them shits were thriving. These niggas was tricking the fuck out of people. God damn.
Commune that journeyed across the country and convinced his followers that he was hundreds of years old, an angel that could see the future and cure diseases due to his magical powers. All that is a bit strange, but there's more. Apparently, to continue enjoying his services, there was a catch. And this is where it gets a little hard to explain with the YouTube censorship, but basically, he would essay the people's children. Documents from the
These cult leaders just find a sophisticated way to be PDF files, bro. I swear to you, they do. How can I do this without getting caught? Oh, let me trick people into thinking like they can join my, this shit is so crazy, bro. And niggas just fall for that shit, bro. They just think of sophisticated ways to be a PDF file. Holy shit.
Kansas Bureau of Investigation Sex Offender Registry showed that his victims were extremely young, and it seemed Perez had created an atmosphere where these kids would just be too scared to speak out. One victim explains that when she first met him, he had been charismatic and talkative, and somehow appeared wise, which made joining the communal, quote, family easy, as it was close and positive. Unknown to them, though, there was a lot going on beneath the facade. For instance, it later became obvious that without any official source of income for the commune to survive on, Perez was committing insurance fraud to cater for his expenses. And not just any type of fraud, no. He was sacrificing members of his own cult. Somehow he would convince members, those with life insurance policies of course, that he would make them come back from the dead after he killed them.
What? Oh my fucking god. You're convincing niggas to let you kill them so you can get the money, but I'm gonna bring you back to life. Have you seen, after the third person, if this nigga still convinces you, be like, okay, so why aren't the other ones alive yet? Like, really sit down and ask that question. Why the fuck ain't nobody else come back? Are y'all, oh my god, it might really be Retigas. They take advantage of Retigas, holy.
First known member to suffer this fate was 27-year-old Patricia Hughes, who it was claimed died while trying to save her toddler daughter from drowning in a pool. It was later revealed, though, that she had actually known she was going to die, even kissing her daughter goodbye and letting her know she'd return from the dead. This had been witnessed by a member who was 12 at the time and had been convinced to lie by Perez. Anyway, for Hughes' death, Perez cashed out her $2 million life insurance.
Do you know how diabolical that is? To kill somebody and then get $2 million for it? By tricking them that you're gonna bring them back to life?
More deaths followed soon after. According to a testimony by a retired insurance salesman, Bill Haddon, he had issued about 5 policies to the group members. It seems Perez...
5? Y'all let this nigga do that 5 times after that? 5. Y'all let him do that 5 fucking times.
Cashed out on all or at least most of these, as in 2001 there was a member that died in a mysterious plane crash in South Dakota alongside her daughter and her boyfriend. Then in 2006, Hughes' husband died after a carjack failed, leading the car he had been working on to fall on him, crushing him to death. In 2008, another group member also died in a traffic accident. Now, these deaths seem to have happened when Angel's Landing had already settled permanently on a 20-acre plot of land they bought somewhere north of Wichita, Kansas. But the fraud streak didn't last forever, as soon enough, Perez was on the run from authorities, abandoning the property. He got arrested in 2010 after trying to open a bank account under a fake new name, Joe Venegas. This arrest saw him get 28 charges, including fraud, murder, Some of the charges were eventually dropped as he was convicted of 20 counts of SA of children, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and the murder of Patricia Hughes. In his defense, he tried to argue being unaware of what he was doing. He said, for instance, that he suffered severe memory loss from getting beat up in Texas in 1997, and so he didn't know where the millions the cult received came from. He also said he had a genital injury, and that meant he couldn't have sex with uncooperative partners, and that all his partners were of legal age. Anyway, where is Daniel Perez now? Well, serving his sentence at the Lansing Correctional Facility in Kansas. He got life in prison and is not eligible for parole until he's at least 120 years old.
Oh yeah, that ain't going down.
Michael Brian Protzman's QAnon. Religion has produced a good number of cults, but cults are not exclusive to religion. And you don't have to look far for proof, because QAnon, whose leading figure was 60-year-old Michael Protzman, is a perfect example. While the cult existed in the shadows of the internet for quite a while, it wasn't until 2021 that it caught the attention of many, including the media. But before we get into what happened in 2021, first let's cover the basics of their beliefs. So according to a CNN report that also interviewed Protzman's mother, QAnon believed that John F. Kennedy Jr., who passed on in 1999 in a plane crash in the Atlantic Ocean off Martha's Vineyard, was still alive. And even crazier, that he was secretly working with the then President Donald Trump to save the US from an evil group of Satan-worshipping PDF files.
Oh my god. Oh my god. You can't make this shit up. What? A Kennedy working with Trump to save them from
vineyard was still alive, and even crazier, that he was secretly working with the then President Donald Trump to save the US from an evil group of Satan-worshipping PDF files. Now, this might sound like something odd to believe in, but it turns out there were a lot of people who bought into it. That was revealed on November 2nd, 2021, when members of this group turned up at the grassy knoll in Dallas, Texas, in hundreds. This is the place where President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated in 1963, and the reason why they were there was that they hoped the Kennedys would return. As one QAnon believer told the news, they were there because, quote, word on the street was Junior, aka JFK Jr., would show up and introduce his parents. There was also speculation that Junior would be Trump's vice president. Now, of course, Junior never showed up because he died. But determined to see their course through, apparently a good number of the believers stayed behind, camping there for months even, still waiting for their savior to return. And it seems the beliefs got objectively worse with time, since they became a mixture of American lore around JFK's assassination, biblical prophecies, and not forgetting QAnon's own prophecies. An example is the belief that implied
they really, oh my god, I want to say the word so bad. Look at how many people are out there. Look at how many people are out there. I actually want to call these niggas oh my god. I feel like it should be okay to call niggas the R word if they're not like mentally, you know, if they're all the way mentally there and they just choose to be the word, I should be able to call them that. Like, I'm not going to say it to a mentally ill person. But to you niggas, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
that the Kennedys and Trump were actually direct descendants of Jesus Christ, and that
oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my.
implied that the Kennedys and Trump were actually direct descendants of Jesus Christ, and that they had been part of age-old battles of good versus evil. Before we take a look at what became of QAnon, there's actually an interesting backstory to its forming. Protzman's mother, Colleen Protzman, who I mentioned in an interview with CNN for a documentary, revealed that Protzman's interaction with cults dated as far back as 2008, when during the financial collapse, he had begun researching about investing in silver. Apparently, platforms that push investments such as silver, at least back then, relied on doomsday stories to convince people. Faced with family issues and an uncertain financial future, he began leaning into the conspiracy theories, and soon enough, he was fully in. He even tried to convince his mother to cash in her 401k and buy silver. Further along, he was sucked into other conspiracies, and eventually he was just isolated. Then, he bumped into Telegram. Since Twitter and Facebook were heavy on cracking down against conspiracy theorists following the January 6th Capitol attack, he effortlessly built an audience after finding people who validated what he believed. So yeah, that's how the whole thing started. From there, the audience grew and eventually became large enough to the point where they showed up to Dallas, Texas. As to what's going on with the group, well, Protzman actually died in July of 2023. It was reported that he lost control of a dirt bike at Meadow Valley Motocross in Millville, Minnesota, and suffered multiple blunt force injuries that he succumbed to. Second, even after his death, the group remained committed to his prophecy that the Kennedys would come back. And lastly, rather unbelievably, his successor, according to Vice, is a 13-year-old known online as Tiny Teflon. This girl was apparently a
oh my god. A 13-year-old. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god.
protege of Protzman, which he allegedly groomed. Her mission? Well, her duty was to recruit kids to the cult. Shoko Asahara's Aum Shinrikyo. Alright, so I've already brought up Aum Shinrikyo in this video, and that word, Shinrikyo, is hard for me to pronounce, but I'm still gonna try Shinrikyo. That's how I say it, and that's how I'm gonna continue to say it for this story. So let's start at the beginning. The morning of March 20th, 1995, in Tokyo, Japan. This was a day that Japan saw one of the deadliest domestic terror attacks carried out by what was termed an obscure group that probably most people had never heard of before. In 5 coordinated attacks across 3 commuter trains, members of this group, later unmasked as Aum Shinrikyo, Shinrikyo had left 5 bags filled with liquid nerve agent in the trains in what they believed was a way to spark the apocalypse that would then precede the end times they had been waiting for. Now, you have to understand that Japan's subway is one of the busiest in the world, and so there were bound to be casualties all over the place. That day, passengers had gone about their mornings as usual, but then while inside the trains, they got met with stinging fumes that within seconds had led to choking, vomiting, blindness, and even paralysis. 13 people died from the attack while 5,800 others were injured. This cult, called Aum in short, was quite predisposed to murder and violence, seemingly stopping at nothing to achieve their goals. For instance, just months after the attack I've described, they tried severely to release hydrogen cyanide in different stations, but without success. Before that, in 1989, they had killed Susumi Sakamoto, a lawyer who was working on a class action case against them. They killed his wife and child too. Also, sometime before that 1995 attack, they had driven a truck full of sarin gas around an apartment in Nagano, Japan, slowly releasing it and killing 7 people in the process while injuring 500 others.
What
also,
the
not
fuck
to
is this
forget,
nigga doing? What is he doing?
They had tried to assassinate another cult leader, Takashi Nakagawa of Happy Science, after Asahara had already made fun of Okawa's superficial knowledge of Buddhism. They've also been linked to the Mahikari cult, having used Shimada Yasuko, who would help Mahikari to buy a vast farm in Western Australia, where they ran some unsanctioned scientific experiments. So overall, it was a pretty chaotic cult. Now, in terms of origins, the group is said to have begun back in the 1980s, started by Shoko Asahara, a self-professed Christ who also called himself the first enlightened one since Buddha. Their core beliefs were a mix of Hinduism, Buddhism, and apocalyptic Christianity. And although preaching against materialism, it turns out that material wealth and elitism were at the very center of their operation from the start. For instance, an ex-follower once explained that members would pay for Asahara's bathwater and hair. For $300, one could get
pay for his bathwater and hair. Are you high?
About 1 ounce of bathwater. Yeah, he was on his Belle Delphine stuff right there. And even more bizarre, there was an instance in 1988 where a member paid $8,100 for blood initiation, where it's alleged that they drank Asahara's blood. This was seemingly a common thing, as the blood was said to give members more enlightenment. I've also mentioned that they were elitist because, as reported by BBC, many of Aum's followers were students from elite universities who the cult promised more meaningful lives away from the academically pressured lives that they were living. Based on this, one can speculate that recruiting smart people might have something to do with their preference for chemical and biological agents as tools for attack. That could also be backed up by the fact that in Western Australia, they had part of their experiments had included attempts to make nuclear weapons by mining uranium and testing nerve agents on sheep, among other similar stuff. Anyway, for their crimes, in 2006, Asahara received a death sentence alongside some of the other key followers. The case dragged on for an entire 12 years, and it wasn't until July 2018 that he and 9 of his members got executed. It is however suspected that the group still exists, classified as a terrorist organization under the name Aleph, and that's spelled A-L-E-P-H. Alright guys, that was it for this video. If you guys enjoyed how I narrated the story, make sure to leave a like. And if you aren't subscribed, I hope I earned your subscription. Damn, I didn't say at the beginning. I should have said at the beginning. That's my intro. Damn. Whatever. I hope I earned your subscription, and if I didn't, maybe it's gonna take more videos, and luckily for you, I upload weekly, or at least I try to. Anyway, that's it for this video. Stream honey, and I'll see you guys next time I upload.
Jesus Christ. That is absurd. Shout out to Tub. This is a great video, but god damn it. Holy moly. Holy moly.